morning, people. Happy Tuesday. It's August 27th, if I remember correctly here. So, we've had some discourse here in Paramount, right? Paramount Global has been in the news for quite some time now. And the bidding war has officially ended after Edgar Bronfman Jr. ended his pursuit for acquiring the storied Hollywood studio for $6 billion that challenged Skydance Media's merger deal. If we take a look at what that looks like here, the ticker symbol is Para. This it's not necessarily something I follow too much, but it's been in the news a lot here. The exit with Seagram Co. Air means that Skydance, run by David Ellison, son of billionaire tech maverick and Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison, will become the new owners of Paramount. So tonight, our bidding group informed the special committee that we will be exiting the go shop process. Bronfman said in the statement. It was a privilege to have the opportunity to participate. We continue to believe that Paramount is an extraordinary company with an unrivaled collection of marquee brands, assets, and people. The decision was reportedly partly because of a tight deadline to submit financial documents. So Bronfman's decision has cleared the way for Skydance to take control of Sherry Redstone's media empire, and Paramount announced that it ended its go shop period, allowed it to field other bidders, and now expects to complete its deal with Skydance in the first half year, but shares of Paramount tumbled about 4% before the bell today. So there's not like too much news realistically in these markets right now. As we're coming into the market open, there's a general weakness in tech names, specifically led by Nvidia, whose big news comes out tomorrow in earnings. That's mainly what everyone's going to be focused on. So the tech weakness is continuing here overall from yesterday and into the pre-market session right now. We're down a significant amount in these markets, and the offer is coming through. We've been breaking key support levels. We've broken yesterday's lows as well, and the downside persists as big tech is starting to tumble here after we saw a pretty extended rally, which makes sense, right? After such a strong upside momentum, to see some kind of pullback for prices to overall rebalance and like hold out, right? Why not, realistically? So it's continued downside in these markets right now. They're holding out pretty well, and overall we're starting to see that. We can see right now that equities are continuously pulling lower. There's decent downside traction, which is several points to the downside, right? There's still a lot of room and time for that to kind of take control and shape up. So there's no real rush for seeing and trying to find this bid, right? We don't want to get overzealous with trying to pick out bottoms continuously. We can see that some names like Apple and whatnot have continued their upside momentum. It's just like names like Google and Nvidia right now that are kind of Google hasn't really pulled up too much, but like you can see things like Nvidia realistically has had a really strong rally to the upside, and right now is taking a decent beatdown. In terms of some of the other news, what we have is new tariffs imposed, right? Canada plans to impose 100% surtax on all Chinese-made electric vehicles effective October 1st, with the aim of leveling the playing field, as Chinese EV makers currently enjoy large subsidies in the country. So currently Tesla is the only automaker that exports China-made EVs to Canada. The decision follows the US and the European Union imposing their own tariffs on Chinese EVs amid growing concerns of an oversupply of the cheap vehicles. So speaking of tariffs, XPeng is looking to set up a manufacturing site in Europe to lessen the impact of the regional levies. And in terms of news today, we don't really have too much. We have consumer confidence at 10. We got the Richmond Fed Manufacturing Index at 10. And otherwise, right now, we're starting to see a pretty substantial drop in these equity markets, right? Like the S&P and the NASDAQ have tumbled a very significant amount, right? Both of these have broken yesterday's lows. NASDAQ is a lot weaker, right? Big tech is tumbling a lot stronger right now, and it seems like they want to explore distributions to the downside. NASDAQ, so like S&P right now, one of the main targets is around that 5610. It's around 5605. That could open up some of this more serious, right, downside. If we start breaking under that, we have targets like 5600, as well as down back into the prior week's lows, which happened to be 58.85 on that drop on Thursday that we witnessed. Under that, 55.72, honestly, I'm in the mode to look to sell rallies. It looks very strong to the downside, and I don't want to be one of those people that consistently tries to buy it. There's an area right now that the S&P is trying to hold on the bid, but I could see potential buyers trying to come out at lower prices, honestly. And I want to wait for things that happen at lower prices, right? Which means, honestly, at 55.70, 55.65 seems like a more reasonable area where the buyers might come in on a more medium-term perspective. NASDAQ, on the other hand, if we take a look at that quickly here, we have a lot of selling that just transpired into these lows, so that's a really interesting factor here. But large downside led by yesterday's weakness. Generally, overall, NASDAQ has been a lot weaker than the S&P. This weakness comes in from last week after we dropped on Thursday. Friday showed no signs of attempted rally into the prior highs, and right now we've entered into these auctions lower, which takes us down into 440 and potentially even lower, which is not so far as to where we stand right now. It's about another 50-point move where we could potentially see even 370 as long as these guys hold. And the offering continues, right? It's persistent, and buyers are most likely waiting at better areas to the downside after this continuous bid that we've seen over the past few days over here, past few weeks, realistically. It makes a little more sense for these guys to try to take control of this downside momentum push, so that we can find better buyers at lower prices, rather than considering and looking at this and being like, oh, okay, it's over, the upside, the upside's over, and the sellers are going to take control of this. So one thing to consider here as we get ready for the day, the downside press is looking pretty strong, and we'll lead with that. There could be an initial rally that tries to spark, so we can see sellers that come in at better prices to the upside, but the downtrend is still very persistent. So I'll leave you all with that. We'll open up our live trading room here and see what's cooking, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. So happy trading, enjoy the day.